treating me like some sort of prostitute. That's bad.
It's not, all right?
All right, then why are you getting so angry?
Why are you so annoying?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 23 worst performances of each year.
You are lying. I never hit you. You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
For this list, we'll be looking at the cringiest, blandest, or just plain awful displays of acting in 21st century films. Animation is excluded, but everything else is fair game. To balance things out, what's your all-time favorite acting performance? Let us know in the comments below. 2000, John Travolta, Battlefield Earth. Suffering through this sci-fi dud feels like its own kind of battlefield, except, in the end, the real casualty here is John Travolta's career.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
His misguided monologuing doesn't sell the Cyclosis menace as much as it makes the whole movie feel like a bad parody. To be fair, not even Forrest Whitaker could make these cringy lines sound convincing. But Travolta takes the crown, since he has no one to blame but himself. Battlefield Earth was his passion project for years, so it's fittingly ironic that it single-handedly flipped his reputation from an Academy Award nominee to a Razzie winner. Clearly, this pipe dream was better left on the drawing board.
Do you want lunch?
2001, Mariah Carey, Glitter. All we want for Christmas is an actress who can actually, well, act. Sure, the Songbird Supreme can strut a stage like no other, especially with her 5-octave vocal range, but that didn't translate to a committed film performance at all.
Woe is me? What the hell is that?
In fact, calling Carey's acting chops amateur is a major insult to all the aspiring thespians out there. She basically has one facial expression in her repertoire, and since she's the film's star, you'll be seeing a lot of it. The fact that the movie's soundtrack is genuinely great just speaks to Glitter's fundamental flaw. It's not a film at all. It's a glorified music video, and Carey's lifeless acting failed to convince critics or audiences otherwise.
Timothy was here today.
What, in our house?
Yes, in our house.
What'd he say?
He said you have a deal with him. You owe him money. What is going on with you?
2002, Madonna, Swept Away. The Queen of Pop chose quite the starring vehicle for this big screen excursion. The entirety of the film hinges upon the emotional growth of Madonna's Amber, and without a trained actress at the helm, the entire thing completely sinks.
Deserted.
Nothing. No lawyers, no phones, no gyms, nothing.
That's impossible, you idiot. It's not 1492, for God's sake.
She comes across as unlikable, unconvincing, and completely out of the water. In a way, Madonna's lackluster acting does accomplish something. It provides yet another reason to watch the 1974 original instead. As a matter of fact, after Swept Away was verifiably watched by just about everyone, Madonna vowed to never act again. While that wouldn't be the case, given the results of this film, that probably would have been for the best.
Would you really be interested in me if you had a choice? You don't have to compete with 18-year-olds.
2003, Tommy Wiseau, The Room. This infamous 2003 flick has some highly questionable creative choices, none more so than Tommy Wiseau casting himself in the lead role. Although, to call what he does acting might be a stretch.
Betray me, you're not good. You're just a chicken. Chip, 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 chip.
Shut up, it's over!
Trey, shut up! Shut up!
It's over!
It's not over. Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
He certainly does a lot of screaming, but the incomprehensible mumbling never amounts to anything resembling real pathos. At the very least, it's entertainingly awful. Except, the jury's still out if that was intentional or not. For literal decades, scholars have asked, is Wiseau's horrid performance self-aware satire? Is it a pitch-black comedy? Or is it just a laughable attempt at acting from someone with no experience? The world may never know for sure, but the end result definitely points towards the latter.
I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hey, Johnny, what's up?
I have a problem with Lisa. She said that I hit her.
What? Well, did you?
No, it's not true. Don't even ask. What's new with you?
2004, Colin Farrell, Alexander. The Great King's biopic completely failed to live up to its character's nickname, and that's putting it lightly.
Conquer your fear! And I promise you, you will conquer death!
The movie is overly serious, emotionally distant, and lacks any of the depth it so desperately feigns. Unfortunately, all of that criticism also applies to leading man Colin Farrell. Even though the film has been officially recut 4 separate times, no amount of editing can hide the fact that he's woefully miscast here. As a result, all his attempts at drama come across about as convincing as his absurd wig. At least Halle Berry's fellow Razzie-winning turn in Catwoman was so bad it's good. This one is just plain bad. Full stop.
But I've seen the future of Feisty. I've seen it now 1,000 times, on 1,000 faces. These people need change.
2005, Jamie Kennedy, son of the Mask. No one was ever going to live up to Jim Carrey's star-making turn in 1994's The Mask, but surely they could have found someone better than Jamie Kennedy.
Don't you just love Halloween? Trick or treat.
All of Carrey's original wit is lost in this soulless reinterpretation, where Kennedy reduces the brand's irreverent humor to its lowest common denominator. The jokes come off as cringy and mean-spirited, and that's if they land at all. Most of the time, Kennedy's delivery just falls completely flat, to the point you aren't sure if you're supposed to be laughing in the first place. In the end, Son of the Mask fails because its leading man can't seem to decide if he's in on the joke or not.
There is nothing more important in this entire universe than your relationship with your family, especially if you're immortal.
2006, Nicolas Cage, The Wicker Man. An actor can only do so much with the material they're given, though it's hard to say if even a good script could have saved this absurd central performance.
This hers? Tell me!
Yes, I think it, yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
Cage looks, feels, and acts completely lost in this movie, and not in a good way. To compensate, he makes some rather bold creative choices, including lots of aimless staring and even a stint in a bear costume. But in the end, it was the bees that buzzed his overblown acting all the way to pop culture infamy and beyond.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah! Ah!
At least Cage can take solace in the fact that his performance is definitely memorable, just not for the reason he probably wanted. 2007, Eddie Murphy, Norbit. This takes the idea of a one-man show to new heights. In a big push for the actor, Norbit stars Eddie Murphy again, and also Eddie Murphy.
Nobody touched your old stupid seat.
Then why folk come all whooped up like this then?
Well, you know, Rasputin, you've been eating so much lately, there's a very strong possibility that the car is shrinking.
Except, it soon becomes painfully obvious that, in an ensemble of just yourself, there's nowhere to hide. Murphy's shtick becomes grating in record time, especially since he doesn't commit to any of his 3 characters beyond their superficial stereotypes. Instead, the makeup and prosthetics do most of the heavy lifting, while Murphy himself is content making the same jokes with a slightly different inflection. Even for a 3-in-1 special, this unfunny performance still isn't worth the price of admission.
I don't weigh no damn 300 pounds. I weigh 165. How you doing?
2008, Mike Myers, The Love Guru. This is perhaps the single best example of why it takes a village to make a movie. At least, a good one. Mike Myers wrote, produced, and starred in The Love Guru, and the lack of additional creative input is plain to see.
I'd like to thank the Academy. Wow, these things are heavy. Yeah.
Put me down, a-hole.
Okay.
All too often, the movie feels like Myers just set up a camera and started ad-libbing. Naturally, that kind of performance doesn't lend itself to any kind of compelling characterization. Rather, Myers' entire role feels like an excuse for a joke, and not even a particularly good one. It's a real shame, since the actor has plenty of hilarious and downright legendary roles in his resume. This just isn't one of them.
What's the capital of Thailand?
Bangkok?
Exactly.
Oh! Omar Sharif, my balls!
2009, Justin Chatwin, Dragon Ball Evolution. It takes some genuine skill to turn one of anime's most iconic characters into a bland teen movie protagonist.
I heard about your grandfather's accident. I'm so sorry. The house collapsed?
Yeah, something like that.
But somehow, Justin Chatwin made it look easy. He has no charisma, no heart, and certainly no screen presence. Quite frankly, this kind of lifeless delivery wouldn't fly in any kind of movie, let alone one with such legendary source material. Chatwin just comes across as flat in every single scene, no matter if he's spouting cringy quips or fighting for the fate of the Earth. He doesn't even commit to the power-up screams, which is pretty much Dragon Ball 101. Suffice it to say, this is Goku in name alone.
Come on, baby. Show me what you got.
Just like I thought. Nothing.
2010, the whole cast. The Last Airbender. This one might hold the record for the most bad performances in a single film. Although, performance implies there was any acting happening in the first place.
It's time for you to stop doing this!
The Avatar would have to be an airbender. Are you an airbender, boy?
Leave him alone!
In lieu of any real emoting, the main cast just frowned a lot and recited their lines like they were reading them from a teleprompter. Though it shouldn't be all that surprising considering its leads had never professionally acted before. And it showed. Avatar deserved better, especially considering the characters had already been brought to life by a sublime voice cast in the original animated series. When animated characters are more expressive than a live-action cast, you know you've done something horribly wrong.
Leave him alone. You're not taking him anywhere.
No one is taking anybody away.
2011, Adam Sandler, Jack and Jill. It's almost poetic that this movie is named after a nursery rhyme, since all it does is put people to sleep. But this isn't a dream. It's a waking nightmare.
How come I didn't know about this? I didn't even know she did karate. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone right now.
Sandler decided to put his stardom to the test by acting opposite himself, and the results were practically unwatchable. As the straight-laced Jack, Sandler looks like he's even boring himself. And don't get us started on the shrill headache that is Jill. The performance was so universally panned that in an unprecedented turn of events, Sandler received both Worst Actor and Worst Actress at the 2012 Golden Raspberry Awards. It's a wonder he ever recovered from this misfire.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. I just hold the thought. I have to go. I have to.
What did I say? Oh no, it's not you, it's the chimichangas!
2012, Tyler Perry, Alex Cross. There's nothing wrong with an actor stepping out of their comfort zone, but leaping from absurdist humor to self-serious detective is simply too great a leap for someone with Tyler Perry's range.
Well, Confucius said, when setting off on the path of revenge, dig 2 graves.
That's fine with me as long as you're in one of them.
Or should we say, lack of range. He only has one tone of voice and one facial expression. That's it for the entire duration of the film. Anytime he attempts to do more than that, it comes off as unintentionally funny instead. Perry's dramatic shortcomings are especially glaring since he's surrounded by a slate of pretty great supporting performances. Unfortunately, all they do is underline the fact that Alex Cross is by far the weakest link of the Alex Cross movie.
Wants somebody to pay, wants them to suffer. I don't know who, maybe his mother, his father, himself.
2013, James Dean, The Canyons. For this erotic thriller, director Paul Schrader looked for talent with a different kind of experience in front of a camera. And to be fair, actor James Dean's history in the adult film industry meant he was a veteran on set, but that experience didn't translate to a good performance.
I'd like to keep things loose, though. I mean, I love her. Better, she's gorgeous. But it's more fun to keep it a little complicated.
Instead, his brooding attempts at drama elicited more yawns than thrills. In a smaller role, Dean might have gotten away with his clear lack of training, but since his malicious character shapes much of the story, the entire facade crumbles almost immediately. If the cast list alone didn't prove it, the actual acting made it clear that Dean was way out of his league here.
She probably is jealous that I'm with you instead of her. But it did not happen.
She's on drugs.
Yes. If it happened, I would tell you. I swear to God.
2014, Kirk Cameron, Saving Christmas. 'Tis the season for some shoddy acting, it seems. While Kirk Cameron is no stranger to the big screen, ironically, he turned in his worst performance yet, playing a fictionalized version of himself.
Hey, you really stepped it up this year. You got Santa Claus. Where'd you find him?
But that wasn't enough. He had to take Christmas down with him. His performance, and we use that word lightly, bounces between stiff monologues and hilarious bursts of overacting. It turns the entire movie into a walking, talking PSA with no shred of personality or, heaven forbid, a fully realized character arc. Cameron's presentation-style delivery only reiterates the fact that this whole movie is a poorly wrapped pile of coal beneath the tree. Bah humbug indeed.
They run down the stairs when I tell them they can, and they run out to the tree, and they just are blown away by all the presents sitting at the base of the tree.
2015, Eddie Redmayne, Jupiter Ascending. Apparently, no one ever told this English actor that less is more.
I create life! And I destroy it.
So, after establishing himself as a serious dramatic actor, Redmayne turned in a performance completely out of this world. Now presenting Belem Abrasix, a bizarre hodgepodge of flamboyant mannerisms and exaggerated reactions. Oh, and lots of random screaming. Yeah, calling this over the top does not do it justice. It's the exact opposite issue of fellow Razzie recipient Jamie Dornan, whose turn in the first 50 Shades movie is about as flat as a panini. Honestly, it's a bit remarkable that 2015 delivered two performances that are equally horrible in their own unique ways.
I came here to try to protect my family.
Seal that sheath, and you and your family will return home safely.
2016, Jared Leto, Suicide Squad. After Heath Ledger took the Joker all the way to Oscar Gold, hopes were high that the next iteration of the character would be just as popular. Unfortunately, Leto's stint in Gotham earned him a very different kind of honor, that being a Golden Raspberry nomination for Worst Supporting Actor.
There is something you could do for me, Doctor.
Anything. I mean, yeah.
I need a machine gun.
In fact, most of his scenes were allegedly cut from the theatrical version of the film, and it's easy to see why. From his questionable line readings to the inane facial expressions, each of Leto's artistic choices is more baffling than the last. At a certain point, it makes you wonder if he knew he was in a big-budget blockbuster and not a cringy music video.
Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
2017, Tom Cruise, The Mummy. It's movies like this that make you wonder just what goes on in an actor's head. Because surely, at some point in production, Cruise would have realized that brooding around the screen for 2 hours wasn't going to cut it.
Sarge, you're not going down there.
You're right. I'm not. We are.
Then at least call in an airstrike.
Airstrike.
Bad idea.
Especially for a franchise like The Mummy. Alas, Cruise isn't funny enough to sell the camp, and not committed enough to do the horror scenes justice either. So, audiences are left with a frustratingly ridiculous performance that isn't even good enough to pass as a parody. After a showing like this, Tom Cruise's tenor with The Mummy deserves to go back to a tomb for a very, very long time.
I'm sorry. We're just never gonna happen.
2018, John Travolta, Gotti. The opening monologue shows you everything you're going to get out of this movie, especially from its leading man.
This life ends one of two ways, dead or in jail. I did both.
Truly, the entirety of Gotti is just John Travolta squinting, scrunching his face, and muttering some nonsense about family and power. Occasionally, you can even see the words Oscar bait flash across his forehead. If he'd spent half as much time developing a real character as he did sneering at the camera, the film might have survived its critical bloodbath. As it stands, he somehow turned one of New York City's most infamous mobsters into a boring caricature, which honestly deserves an award in and of itself.
You know, this meeting today was worth 55 years hanging upside down.
2019, Hilary Duff, The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Let's get one thing straight. This movie is flawed at a fundamental level, but even beyond its tasteless narrative, perhaps its biggest sin is that it tried to pass Hilary Duff as a compelling Sharon Tate.
And as I moved closer, I realized it was my friend, Jay Sebring, and me. And both of us had been cut open at the throat.
In a far cry from her Disney Channel days, Duff's attempts at emulating scream queens of the past fail in every regard. At best, her delivery is mindlessly lethargic, and at worst, It's downright disrespectful to the real-life victims. Plus, her scared face is totally hilarious, which is a pretty big issue considering this is supposed to be a horror film. Since Sharon Tate was an actress herself, you'd think they would have found a better one to play her.
I guess all kinds. Even satanic messages.
Satanic.
2020, Robert Downey Jr., Doolittle. Hot off the heels of his star-making tenure as Iron Man, RDJ cashed in all that goodwill with a movie where he sticks his hand into a dragon's you-know-what. We wish we were kidding.
If you don't feel better, you could fry us all.
Stop talking. Just get on with it.
We have to get you on your side. We need to perform an emergency extraction.
The worst part? He doesn't seem fazed by it at all. In fact, for most of the runtime, Downey Jr. looks half asleep. The usually charismatic actor can't seem to decide whether Doolittle is a crude comedy or heartfelt drama, and the result is a performance that fails to satisfy either. That's all without even mentioning his distracting and inconsistent Welsh accent. Clearly, instead of talking to animals, he should have been speaking to an accent coach.
To put it simply, more leafy greens and less armor in your diet.
2021, LeBron James, Space Jam: A New Legacy. After decades on the bench, the Toons return to the big screen better than ever. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for their new team captain.
Focus. You got basketball camp next weekend. The boy's gonna be coming at your neck, seeing what you got.
James is fine enough when he's standing in the background or shooting free throws, but whenever the movie asks him to do any actual acting, his furrowed brow leaves a bigger impression than he does. When sharing a screen with some of the best voice actors in the business, there's simply no hiding the fact that James's skills don't extend beyond the court. So sadly, this new legacy isn't a very good one. Fingers crossed that when it comes to James's future acting prospects, this is all, folks.
Your son plays for the other team. Yeah, you're a bad dad.
I'm a bad dad. I've been trying to save my son and coach y'all at the same time. What y'all doing?
We've been trying.
Trying to do what?
Trying to be like you.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
2022, Colson Baker, aka Machine Gun Kelly. Good morning. After watching this movie, the best piece of advice to give Colson Baker is to stick to rapping.
Where is your phone?
It's in rice. Please don't move out.
His acting isn't just bad, it's even worse. Completely forgettable. He looks confused most of the time, and even when he does stumble through lines, it's with a blank expression that makes even mannequins seem passionate. The movie itself is filled with a glutton of star-studded cameos and confusing cutaway gags, seemingly to distract from the fact that its lead doesn't know the first thing about acting. But there's no smoke thick enough to hide Baker's complete inability to convey emotion. This isn't his first on-screen role, but for everyone's sake, hopefully it's his last.
Yo, what was that one? It's like Game of Thrones or something. I'm trying to get on one of those shows. Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.